this afternoon. It's, 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock in Los Angeles right now, yesterday. So I got in this morning, but it's great to be with you. I have to admit, this is only my second time to New Zealand. I was here once, went down to Christchurch, where I gave a talk and created a bit of an international diplomatic incident when I had everybody hug each other at the end, and the Prime Minister hugged the President Kiribati, which I guess was not normal protocol, but it was a lot of fun, and I've been involved in. The reason I came to Christchurch was I was a fellow for this organization called the Hillary Institute, named after Sir Edmund Hillary, and I'm still involved as the governing board member. So it's great to be here with you today. I will admit that at the end of this talk, I am going to give you the secret to saving the world, so all your problems will be solved. Yeah, with that said, I just wanted to note that LA and Mayor Garcetti, whom I worked for many years, we do have a great relationship, a partnership with the City of Auckland, the Auckland Council, and the Guangzhou City. We have a tripartite partnership. We just hosted Deputy Mayor from Auckland in our offices, in my office, with the Deputy Mayor of Los Angeles and Deputy Mayor of Guangzhou. And this partnership is really important to us. And I think that there's a lot of lessons to be shared, and some things that I think I've heard here. Climate change leading to drought, energy and electricity shortage tied to that. We're seeing increased use of fossil fuels and natural gas and coal, challenges with earthquakes and rebuilding, grid vulnerabilities, costs rising. This is Los Angeles. This is the challenges we're facing. And these are the similar challenges I've heard from you and I've experienced in talking to people from New Zealand over the last decade. Climate change leads to extreme drought. We've faced that in Los Angeles. We had a natural gas disaster that led to electricity shortages in our state. When you've got drought, you've got challenges with your incredible hydro system that leads to increased use of natural gas, and you've got a prime minister that wants to head to a zero emissions carbon neutral future. My mayor of Los Angeles just announced that by 2050 we'll be carbon neutral, increasing the goal from 80% reductions in GHGs by 2050 to carbon neutral. So these things all need to go together. And you know the other thing Los Angeles shares with Auckland and New Zealand? Anybody want to guess? Traffic. Yes, I noticed that this morning. Traffic, yes. Anything else? Housing crisis. We have a housing crisis in Los Angeles and the state of California and many big cities, of course. LA has the most expensive housing in the United States of America relative to income. And while you think it's the home of sprawl, we have incredible crowding in many of our homes, incredible density in many of our neighborhoods, and we just can't get enough units. And we have the most energy efficient, greenest housing requirements of any state in the United States, and other states are following the lead, and we believe those things have to go together. Why burden someone, particularly a low-income family, with high energy bills, poor indoor air quality, and all those things that, homes that have formaldehyde in your products, that cause off-gassing, that cause upper respiratory attacks? We need to approach these challenges together. Do I have a clicker? No, okay. I just realized I didn't have a clicker. That's all right. So to me, it's really that responsibility that we need to take together around energy efficiency and housing and indoor air quality, and thank you very much. And how do we improve people's lives and tackle climate change together? So just a quick, whoops. So little bit of my story here. When I first focused on affordable housing, I was a volunteer with an organization called Habitat for Humanity. Jimmy Carter's our most famous volunteer, the former president of the United States, and I decided to make my first focus, how do we green the annual Jimmy Carter Work Project, and that was going to be in Los Angeles in 1995. And Habitat, if you're familiar with it, you may not be, but it's a volunteer-led organization. At an architectural committee. So I went to the head of the architectural committee, this earnest architect, said, hey, we got to do green building. We really got to prove that we can make greening affordable housing, make green building affordable and make it accessible. It's like, oh, I love it. I put some, passive energy features in my our design, but I'm done. I don't have any time for this. Why don't you go talk to the materials committee? So I went and talked to the head of the materials committee. Oh, this is great. I brought all these green building materials back. This is 1993, 1994. Things are a little different, but I had a little box of green building materials I brought with me, all earnest. Hey, don't you think we should use some of this stuff in these homes, these 20 homes we're going to build with the former president of the United States? Oh, yeah, this is great, but, I got single pane windows donated. I don't really have any ability to add anything else. So I went to the construction committee, and I finally found a receptive voice. He said, all right, let's figure out how we recycle every piece of construction waste that comes off that site. And we did. And it led to a partnership at the time during that Carter project with the organization I ran called Global Green. And we started partnering with Habitat for Humanity across the country to really make green building affordable, by bringing it to those that need it the most and making it more accessible. And along the way, we wrote this book. We literally wrote the book on called The Blueprint for Greening Affordable Housing to show people that it was possible. And then along the way, I also happened to meet somebody that you might recognize. Anybody know who that is? Not talking about me. I was 20 pounds heavier then, but Brad Pitt. So I had a crazy idea that we could rebuild New Orleans to be the first green city in America after Hurricane Katrina. That we would rebuild 10,000 homes to be green, we would rebuild the schools to be green, because we know students perform better in classrooms with better air quality, better daylight, and we know that those schools also benefit from lower energy costs and lower maintenance costs. So we went into New Orleans. We partnered with Brad Pitt to do a design competition, because the other commitment that I had when I went into New Orleans with this crazy idea was that we could rebuild a neighborhood and create the first carbon neutral building project in New Orleans. And we went forth and we created this project here, 5 single family homes, the first LEED Platinum home. So LEED is, if you're not familiar, is the green building standard, certification standard in the United States. LEED Platinum is the highest. These were the first LEED Platinum homes in New Orleans. There was no LEED, so if you need a certified home, you need a certified professional or accredited professional. There were no LEED accredited professionals in Louisiana, in the entire state. So again, we made incredible progress, but just because we had a crazy idea, we did what people thought was impossible, and so we have a LEED Platinum Community Center there now too that Global Green created, and we continue to show the world what we could do. And so Global Green continued its work, and we knew that we needed to do more with affordable housing and work with mainstream multifamily housing builders in what's known as subsidized affordable housing in the United States, using low-income housing tax credits, or LIHTC for short. So we started putting incentives in the LIHTC financing plans, saying if you get more energy efficient, you get more green building materials with better air quality, you get more points, meaning you're more competitive. Then that voluntary incentive became the standard, because if you wanted those valuable LIHTC credits to build your subsidized affordable housing, you needed to demonstrate you were going to have a more energy efficient, greener project. And we partnered with this project in San Diego County when the California Energy Commission said, we want to see how do we pilot net zero energy housing. So we worked with the developer to create this project that is net zero energy. And then we studied the resident behavior, and we learned a lot. Some people were using incredibly little energy, some a lot, and we began to also realize we needed to play with the levers on social behavioral challenges around energy consumption, even if you've got a net zero building. So then we began to demonstrate what else we could do around green building, and we went to Sacramento, our state capital, and said, how do we tackle climate change? Yes, we have something called AB 32 in California, since increased to newer standards. We said, how do we protect and help low-income families be part of solving climate change? So then all 25 of all the the greenhouse gas emission reduction funds, California produces billions of dollars in our carbon credit system, that 25% have to go to low-income communities. So that's helping provide a funding stream to all sorts of community projects for low-income communities that struggle the most with the effects of climate change. Then we also said, how do we create a goal for net zero building standards? We introduced, sponsored as the nonprofit, AB 212, that became later became the net zero housing goal that I'll talk about in a second. We introduced AB 758, the first statewide mandate for existing building energy efficiency, because that is the low-hanging fruit. We all talked about it in this room. How do we move the needle on our existing building stock? Then in Los Angeles, we partnered with then Councilmember Eric Garcetti to create the first big city municipal LEED green building standard. That then went from LEED certified to LEED silver to LEED gold. Now Los Angeles has more LEED certified square footage than any other city in America. Then we said, let's do a private sector project. You know, when I first started working on green building, the Building Industry Association, I don't know what it's called here in New Zealand, but they're the conservative, protecting their members who don't want mandates that increase the cost of their product, right? So, of course, when we first talked at the City Council in Los Angeles about a green building standard, hey, if it's voluntary, they said, we're all for it. But just don't make it mandatory. You know who was in line when the California Energy Commission a couple weeks ago, about a month ago, and spoke in favor of the state's net zero energy code? The Building Industry Association. So in 20 years, completely changed. But that progress wasn't easy, but you do have to go from seeing your code as a ceiling to make it a floor and increase the incentives and use that, whether it's Homestar or other tools, to be able to increase so you have a higher floor and move to that aspiration. I'm going to dive into, then I moved to the city of Los Angeles, worked with Mayor Garcetti. These are some other mayors. We created climate mayors. Just a quick sidebar, given you mentioned Trump, Andrew. We created this organization when I was in the mayor's office to get more mayors to support President Obama going into Paris and get a stronger climate agreement. And there were a lot of things that went into that, but we think the mayors in the U.S. showing the Chinese that we were serious about climate change to help move the needle a little bit. Of course, when Trump got elected, everything changed. We went from 33 mayors to 70 within 2 weeks who signed a letter to Trump saying we need to do something about climate change, work with us. Silence, of course, and then it became worse than silence. On June 1st, 2017, when he pulled out of Paris, we had 70 mayors who said that they were going to adopt the Paris Climate Agreement in their cities. Today, we have 406 mayors in 47 states in the United States of America who've said they're going to continue and implement the Paris Climate Agreement in their cities. So there is some climate resistance in the United States of America. Back to what we're talking about today. So Mayor Garcetti and I created the Sustainable City Plan. I'm going to quickly go through this, but I just want you to see that we didn't see the environment and equity and economy as different things. They have to go together. Sustainability is not a euphemism for the environment. It is about making sure we have adequate housing, sufficient housing, and that we have energy efficient housing. So we set goals around local water because LA suffers from access to water. We had a drought. We increased our building standards to require more water efficiency in the homes. We increased the amount of solar. We have the most solar of any city in the United States. And then we both increased the requirements for existing buildings and new construction for energy efficiency, climate goals, and we put housing first amongst our economic goals because just like you, the challenge people face is how do I find an affordable place to live? And I'm not talking about subsidized affordable housing, affordability. And part of being affordable is low energy bills, better air quality, because if you can't pay your energy costs or you struggle with that or you've got somebody's got upper respiratory problems like asthma and they get an asthma attack, you have to take time off from work. This affects everybody from lower income to middle income families. So we put those things together and showed that we could do it while creating green jobs. And then we began to build our movement into our existing building in energy and water efficiency policy on the back of the state's programs. So in 2014, we got a council motion at City Council that created this. A little hard to read, it's a little small, but where we wanted to make sure that we increase the energy efficiency and water efficiency of our building stock. Pre-1978, we had no energy code in the state of California. Now cities can actually increase their energy efficiency and other code requirements, but they have to ask for permission from the state to do that. In this case, we were doing the same. I talked earlier about when I ran a group called Global Green, we put in some legislation that got passed and signed into law that by then Governor Schwarzenegger to increase energy efficiency in all existing buildings. This program locally was 2 years ahead of that implementation date. So we wanted to show that the biggest city and the biggest state in America could lead the way in existing building energy efficiency. Of course, I know some of you are very familiar with California's Title 24 Energy Code. It's updated every 3 years. It is comprehensive. And when I first started working on green building in the mid-90s, one of the funders who funded some work around this space said, you know what, it's all great what you're doing on affordable housing, but we need to focus actually on certainty. Are we really actually implementing Title 24? And so we've seen a lot of improvements in California along those lines, because I've heard some of those discussions here in the brief time I've been here about going out in the field and field testing, and not everything always meets the code. And again, the code should not be your floor or your ceiling, it should be your floor. So California has continued to have this comprehensive energy code that gets updated every 3 years. And as I said a month ago, the state of California, the California Energy Commission, passed this new net zero energy housing standard. So by 2020, all new homes in California, and there are a couple of small exceptions, and that's why this headline it says May soon, will be energy efficient and have solar. Now they've had to be solar ready for a long time, energy efficient for a long time. Now they actually have to have solar. In Los Angeles, we've actually also required EV charging. It used to be EV ready so that you didn't have to run extra conduit and rewire the building when you're going to put in EV chargers. Now they actually have to put in EV chargers. And as we move not just from 50% renewables in our current state requirements, we are moving to, there's a bill going through our state legislature, SB 100, that'll require 100% clean energy. And I say clean energy versus renewable energy because it might allow for some hydro, because in California's state law, large hydro has never been considered renewable. Small hydro, yes, but because of environmentalist concerns about large hydro and dams, impact in ecosystems, it wasn't allowed. Now, as we move to 100% renewables, we need to, of course, people worry about the duck curve or intermittency of solar and wind. But we also discovered that if we increase the penetration of EVs in the marketplace, it actually helps us put in more renewable energy into the system, because we're taking off that energy at critical times of the day into the transportation fuel sector. A new thing for utilities to get into is become a transportation fuel provider. They all work together. Increased renewables, increased storage, increased efficiency, increased electric transportation means lower GHGs, better air quality, and a more efficient economy. So, just to pause as we think about where we are, if you remember this from several years ago from the front cover of The Economist, we've entered the Anthropocene, which is the geologic age that some have argued, scientists have argued, that's the first where a species, a single species, has defined the geologic age. And that is now, where humanity has impacted our planet so much that we have defined this geologic age. So we know the signals around climate are increasing, this call to action, this SOS. I know your Prime Minister has pledged to take this country in new directions in terms of climate leadership. In Los Angeles, in California, in September, we will hold a Governor's Climate Summit that Jerry Brown is hosting. We hope your Prime Minister is able to come, although it sounds like she might be busy with her family. But I'm sure the government of New Zealand will be well represented there. And we hope that you come with bold plans around energy efficiency and housing and renewable energy and how these things can all work together. Because we need New Zealand to be bold. You are a small but mighty country that has long gotten the attention of the globe, whether it's your beauty that you drew the filming of Lord of the Rings and now Avatar to this great nation, that you were the first nuclear-free nation. People are watching New Zealand. Yes, you may just be as a population just a little bit larger than the city of LA, but you're a nation that punches far beyond your weight. And I hope that you take this responsibility seriously and tackle this housing crisis and climate crisis together and be bold. I know, I'm no student of Edmund Hillary other than what I've learned in the last 10 years, but I don't think he knew what the hell it was going to take with Tenzing Norgay to get to the top, for sure. And so take that leap, take that climb, be bold as you climb the next mountain as you head and tackle the housing and climate crisis together. Thank you. Oh, wait. I forgot I promised you the secret to saving the world. All right, yeah. Okay, so everybody stand up. Your pre-break stand up. All right, just a couple questions to get warmed up. How many people love your home? Raise your hand if you do. All right, good, most everybody. How many people love where you live? Great, more hands. How many people love planet Earth? All right, even more hands. Do you love people? Most of them, okay. All right. How many people love the All Blacks? All right, about half. We've got some Aussies in the room. All right, raise your hand and repeat after me. This is the secret to saving the world. Come on, people. Let's get serious. Let's go France. Oh, wait, sorry. Wrong crowd. Seriously, let's do it again. I love my home. Because if we love our home, we love people, we love planet Earth, let's do this. Now turn to the person next to you and give them a big hug because we got to love each other to take care of each other.